Welcome to the Silver Screen Guide podcast, where we discuss films from every genre. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast. Welcome back, listeners. Today we are discussing Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. This is your co-host, Corbin.
I'm Allen from Chicago.
And this is actually the third installment in our Halloween retrospective series, leading up to the brand new release of the new Halloween. We don't know what it's called. We just know it's Halloween. And it's coming to theaters this late October. We're both super excited for it. And we thought it would be good to go and review all of the movies leading up to it. I'm not a newbie to this series. Alan is pretty much newbie, right?
Yep. I have not seen any of these. I take it back. I have seen pieces of the remake done by Rob Zombie, and we watched that one, most of it at your house.
Oh, yes.
Other than that, I am basically brand new to this entire series, so we have two different perspectives coming into it. One being someone who's been a fan of it for years, one who has not seen any. So,
well, you may be wondering Halloween 3 would pick up right after Halloween 2, but you would be mistaken. Halloween 3 has nothing to do with the preceding two films, even though the title suggests that it absolutely does. Very confusing titling, really confused a lot of people. And I'm not going to jump into that right here. That is a separate podcast. I encourage you to pause it right now if you're confused. If you're not, then you don't really need to pause it, I guess. But if you are confused, if you want a refresher, I would say from here on out, you're going to want to go listen to that podcast that I did. And I have the infographic attached down below in the description. So go ahead and pull up that infographic and follow along with me as I give you a rundown of the Halloween timeline and all of the different canons, because this is one of the rare series, honestly, that has multiple canons that ignore sequels. They ignore the films before it. They really pick and choose. It can get quite confusing, but if you stay with me and look at the infographic, it'll all be crystal clear.
So you're telling me that from here on out, things are just going to get worse?
Well,
or just more confusing?
Yes, things will get quite confusing if you don't listen to my podcast and understand why certain choices were made to follow certain or discontinue certain plot lines.
Oh boy.
Well, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was released around the perfect time, October 22nd, 1982, only 1 year after Halloween 2 and 4 years since the first Halloween movie. And it is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who was actually the art director for the very first Halloween film, offered to direct Halloween 2, turned it down, but he did come back and wrote and directed Halloween 3. Now, we won't put you down if you haven't heard of Tommy Lee Wallace before, because he's really done he's really done nothing that's too well known. The only thing that I would say is probably his most well-known thing, especially in recent memory because it's been really big lately, he did the TV version of It.
Yeah, I was just looking at his page and I was searching through all his filmography and I'm just like, I have heard of none of this. Yeah, until I got to It and I was like, okay, now I know where I've heard of his. Now I know where I've heard of his name from. Is from the miniseries of It from 1990, which I have not seen either.
I haven't seen it either. It is sitting on my shelf right now, waiting to be watched. I'll get around to it when I have some free time.
Right.
But for some reason, his name is Tommy Lee Wallace. For some reason, I always think of Tommy Doyle from the very first Halloween movie, and I think it's like the same person for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. A character comes back and directs a Halloween movie. That would have been hilarious, actually, if they did that.
That would have been interesting, yes. Well, he also did Amityville 2, The Possession, which I've seen, which I can't... All I remember is I liked it, but I also thought I liked the first one and didn't when we went back and rewatched it with friends, but that's a different retrospective.
Yeah, I remember when we watched it, we both had very differing opinions on that one.
Well, yes, but I really built it up to you, and then I watched it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie stars Tom Atkins, Stacey Nelkin, and Dan O'Hurley. I really didn't know who else to include because, I don't know, they're all pretty much throwaway side characters that don't really matter. The only other character I would say worth mentioning is, did you notice Annie Brackett from the very first Halloween movie? Totally different character since these movies aren't related.
No, I did not. Was she Maggie? She's the first one who dies.
No.
Oh, okay, then I don't know.
No. Annie Brackett, who is Laurie Strode's friend in the first Halloween movie, daughter of Sheriff Brackett. She is Tom Atkins. She plays Tom Atkins' wife in this movie. So when Tom Atkins comes home and he sees his two kids and his wife, that is she plays the teenager in Halloween 2, but in this she's a mom with, looks kind of like silvery graying hair in some way.
Gotcha.
She's supposed to be probably around middle-aged like he is.
She's the screaming ex-wife.
Yes.
For the whole movie. Oh,
that is the only time you see her. Otherwise you just hear her voice, which is her voice on the phone, constantly berating him. But
that poor Doc.
Yeah, interesting choice she is there.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the IMDb rating for just a minute. Okay, so the first Halloween had a 7.8. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty dang high. I mean, usually great movies will have that high of a score normally.
And that movie had a budget of $300,000 and was pretty independent, you might say, in certain aspects.
Right.
Well, the second one dropped to 6.6. It's pretty mediocre.
Yeah, I know we talked about that in the last podcast. We said, I mean, it's pretty fitting, but at the same time, that's a pretty big drop for, a classic heralded as one of the greatest horror films of all time, and having its sequel be that low in a score.
Yeah. Well, okay. This dropped even more. This movie currently holds a 4.7 on IMDb.
Which is so not good.
That
really
is bad.
In my mind, if you have anything below a 6.5 on IMDb, it's pretty much not going to be too great of an experience. At least in my own experience, only a few times will there ever be a movie that has that low score and actually be decent. That's very rare, though.
Yeah, it's not a good sign. I think it's worth mentioning because that is a really big drop compared to the first one and especially the second one. I was really surprised when I went to rate this movie after I watched it. I was surprised to see it. In a way, I was surprised because this is incredibly low, but in another way, well, we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah. When I know I looked at the IMDb page before I watched the movie, I think I looked it up earlier because it wasn't too big of a shock that this one has such a low score. And really from here on out, the scores, at least I think up until the Rob Zombie remake, the scores are relatively mediocre.
Right. I guess the other thing is worth mentioning, Dean Cundey came back for the cinematography. I would say he has improved since Halloween 2. And also, if you started on our Jurassic Park retrospective, I believe Dean Cundey did that one as well. And John Carpenter, like we said, Tommy Lee Wallace wrote this movie. John Carpenter and Debra Hill produced, and John Carpenter did the score once again with Alan Hayworth. That's, as far as I can tell, really their own involvement. What they wanted to do with this franchise is just remain producers, but they wanted probably different directors and different people come in and make this an anthology series. So Halloween 4 would be totally unrelated to the preceding 3 movies, and then Halloween 5. So they would not be a Michael Myers movie like we know as it is today. And like I said, I'll get into that in the other podcast, but It is important to note John Carpenter and Debra Hill, they stepped back from number 2, but they actually did play more of an uncredited, heavier hand. This one was really more step back, and then they were fine to remain in that producerial capacity and let this be an anthology series. But that didn't happen. That's a discussion for next week, though.
Right.
Well, the budget for this movie is believed to be around $2.5 million. It's
pretty small.
Pretty small.
I mean, not nearly as small as the original, but that's still pretty small.
That's still very small, and this movie did come out in early 80s, which is still pretty small for that time. At the box office, for the domestic, I don't think this movie went worldwide. I could be wrong, but just here domestically, it grossed $14.4 million. So that's pretty good, but when compared to the previous movies, the first movie, like I said, budget of $300,000, it grossed $47 million at the box office.
Right.
And then the second one did have quite a drop to $25 million, but still pretty good. So then the number 3, $14.4 million, that's not good at all. That's a huge drop from the other ones.
And I know that the producers were not very happy with those results, that they only got $14.5 million off of their movie. To them, that was a big flop because it should have made a lot more, but it didn't, and probably for good reason, I'm sure, as we'll get into it here in a sec.
Right. Well, the movie, from everything I could tell, was only in theaters for about 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow. So that's surprising.
Yeah, on week 3, it made that's when it hit 12 million, and then I think they cut off the run not long after that, and that's how it hit 14 million. But by week 3, it was number 9 at the box office. It never reached number 1. Opening weekend, it was number 2 with 6.3 million, basically half of its gross in the first weekend. It was actually funny because this movie came out the same weekend as First Blood.
Oh, well, then that's why it did terrible.
Right.
Or another reason why.
First Blood beat it out with First Blood got 6.6 million, and it was actually in about 300 less theaters across the nation.
Well, that also goes to help explain as to why this movie was received so poorly. I know that we talked about in our First Blood podcast way back in the very first podcast we ever did like this. That movie did pretty dang good in the box office, and was really hailed as now I guess is considered one of the classics.
Yes, it's definitely gained a cult classic following, like Rambo. Everybody knows Rambo. Halloween 3, it does kind of have notoriety, but of the not so good kind. It's always considered the odd one out, the ugly duckling of the series. It's just the weird one, and for good reason.
I saw that basically everyone that are fans of the Halloween series tends to say that Season of the Witch, this one here that we're talking about, is considered a cult film and is totally not canon for a lot of people. And I don't know. Well, I guess we'll get into that in a sec. But that's just not very good.
Right. Like I said at the beginning, this movie is non-canonical in any way. It's really weird because we actually see the very original Halloween playing twice.
Right.
Makes it out to be a fictional movie, so that was pretty strange, I thought. Okay, this is actually not the lowest rated Halloween movie.
Really?
Does that scare you?
A little bit. What's the lowest, dare I ask?
The lowest is Halloween Resurrection.
That's the one from what, 2002?
Yep, 2002, with Busta Rhymes.
I'm scared, Corbin.
Well, you should cheer up because the following movies, the ratings are somewhat higher.
Yeah.
But then it goes downhill, then it goes back uphill. So we're ready for a roller coaster.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Mixed bag. Well, and you also know this movie is in trouble when E.T. comes in at number 5 at the box office with 3.2 million, and it was in week 20 of its run. Number 5, week 20.
Ooh, week 20. That says a lot.
That says a lot. Well, okay, adjusting for inflation, because that's only fair since Halloween has more modern films, it's actually ranked number 6 out of 10, I think, which is not great.
Could be worse.
But could be worse. Otherwise, if you don't adjust for inflation, then it's number 9.
Well,
so I did go ahead and watch the original teaser. Very short. It mostly just shows the Halloween mask. It hooked me. I did watch the collector's edition Blu-ray re-release trailer. It literally just shows the highlights of the movie and incorporates the teaser as well. So it really shows just the best parts and even the end scene. So it's an incredibly misleading trailer. Totally misrepresents the movie.
Now, I did go ahead and watch both the teaser and I think it's one of the theatrical trailers that was released back in the day. On IMDb, there is 2 trailers. One is the teaser, of course, and then the other one is like a Blu-ray and DVD announcement trailer. But it kind of looks like it was the trailer that would have been released back in '82. Well, anyways, regardless, the teaser trailer was fine, I suppose. It kind of got me excited for the movie. I mean, if I was a Halloween fan back in the day, I probably would have been pretty excited for this one. It doesn't really give too much away. It was interesting how there weren't any pumpkins in the teaser trailer. There was a witch mask, and that's really about it. That kind of is a bit concerning, but I think regardless, I would have been pretty excited to see it. Now, the other trailer that's on there, which is the DVD and Blu-ray announcement trailer on IMDb, that one is a bit more concerning and really would probably have pushed me away from seeing it because Michael Myers is nowhere to be seen in that trailer at all. And the movie doesn't really set itself out there to make sure that the audience knows that this is an anthology movie and is not connected to the rest of the other 2 movies at all. It kind of just is a trailer for a completely different movie. Like, this is not the trailer I would have imagined Halloween would ever have put out. So I guess the good things are that the voice is cool. The background music is pretty chilling as well. So overall, it's, I say, spooky, but not really effective when it all comes down to it, because Michael Myers is just nowhere to be seen, and everyone we see is, I don't recognize at all. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
So the taglines for this movie, I'd say, are kind of a mixed bag. I thought they were worth bringing up because the original tagline for the first Halloween movie is great. The night he came home. Very ominous. This movie did have a tagline that was on the posters. It says, "The night no one comes home." That's pretty ominous. I like it.
Yeah, that actually does make the movie kind of interesting. At least, it gets you engaged to watch it, at least, in my own opinion.
It does. The other taglines are ... and now the earth will run with blood again, ! Okay. This one is really bad. Witchcraft enters the computer age, and a different terror begins.
Oh, that physically
Riveting.
hurt to hear.
That's so... And the other one is the Halloween horror continues. So, just really generic.
Not so sure about that one.
Did you know, I don't think the second one had this. I was surprised by the Universal logo at the beginning.
Yeah, so was I. I forgot. I don't know if I forgot or if it just wasn't there that the other 2 were. I know the first one was something different. But yeah, the second one, I didn't remember seeing the Universal logo. That was a bit weird.
Yes. Something else worth noting is this kind of has some nods to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Have you seen the original?
Yeah, I have seen the original, and I love it. It's great.
It is great, yes. Unlike this movie. Well, Santa Mira is the setting of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and there are bodies replaced in both movies. So
that makes sense. I knew I heard Santa Mira from somewhere, and I couldn't remember what that was. That makes sense. Yes. Okay.
The other connection possibly is the subtitle might be coming from George Romero's second film, Season of the Witch. They don't have any similar plots at all. The subtitle doesn't make a whole lot of sense in conjunction with the rest of the movie, except there's a really cool witch mask on the cover, which was actually nominated for a Saturn Award, but lost to E.T.'s poster. Just something interesting.
This was Halloween 3 that was nominated for that?
Ed Riviera designed the poster and was nominated for a Saturn Award, but he lost it to John Alvin's E.T. poster.
Well,
it's a good poster.
Came close to something good.
Yeah, really. This was actually one of the worst horror movies of '82 because Poltergeist came out that year.
Oh no!
Yeah, Poltergeist was huge because you have Tobe Hooper. Where's it? Toby Hooper? I don't know. Who did Texas Chainsaw, and you have Steven Spielberg together.
Yikes.
And most believe Spielberg was pretty much the one who directed that movie and was the driving force. Even Friday the 13th Part 3, the 3D one, which is horrible, did better than this movie by far. And Creepshow did better too. I haven't seen Creepshow, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that, but I haven't seen either.
Yes. Yeah, so, gosh, that's not good.
Yeah, so it came up. This was released at the worst possible time ever.
It was a really quick turnaround sequel.
Yeah.
Normally you don't get sequels to movies unless it's like Paranormal Activity or something that close of a turnaround.
Right.
You don't normally get the sequel next October. That's normally a sign they didn't take very much care with the script with multiple drafts and whatnot. There was also a book, a novelization that was actually a bestseller. And was really good and received a couple of reprints a couple years later.
That's interesting.
And it is interesting. And for marketing, they actually produced the masks in this movie and really pushed it out for people to... To me, it kind of makes me not want to wear the mask watching the movie.
Yeah!
And especially for kids, but kind of cool, kind of maybe a cult item now that you could wear while watching it.
Honestly, I don't think I would have bought one of these masks. Nope. One, because of what you said. If they came with the emblem, ain't no way. And then the second, these masks are kind of really cheap. Especially the pumpkin one looks.
Oh yeah.
Looks like it would cost you $2 at Dollar General.
Even Cochran says as much. He's like, well, we just like pour the molds and paint them and put them in boxes. That's really it.
Right.
And we're super rich. Well, regardless, let's jump into it. I'm going to give a plot summary, but if you haven't seen Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, you don't want it spoiled for you for whatever reason, then go ahead and pause the podcast right now so you don't hear any spoilers. Go ahead and watch it, and then come back, and we'll be ready to talk about it. But you've been warned. We're about to get into spoilers right now.
This is the official spoiler warning.
Yes. When Dr. Daniel Chalice has a delusional patient crying, "They'll kill us all," while clutching a Halloween mask, he quickly dismisses the ravings. That is until a man in a suit brutally murders the patient and then lights himself on fire. The next day, the daughter of the recently deceased man, Ellie Grimbridge, comes to the hospital looking for answers. Chalice is so shaken by the event, he offers to help Ellie. Her research leads them to Santa Mira, California, where the famed Silver Shamrock factory is run by Connell Cochran. See, Silver Shamrock produces the most popular Halloween masks that year and plays commercials constantly encouraging kids to buy them. After unsuccessfully trying to gain information about the autopsy of the suicidal murderer, Chalice finds Ellie missing from the eerily hostile town. Believing her held captive in the mysterious Silver Shamrock factory, Chalice sneaks in only to be captured himself. There he learns Cochran is using a piece of Stonehenge in conjunction with the commercial to trigger devices in the masks that will murder the children that wear them on Halloween night.
Oh.
Chalice breaks his bonds, rescues Ellie, and destroys the factory along with Cochran in it. But Chalice is betrayed by Ellie, who has been replaced with a robot. After defeating her, he telephones the TV stations to turn off the triggering, deathly commercial. Two stations capitulate, whereas the third stations keep playing the commercial as Chalice desperately yells, Stop it, as credits roll. So, I gotta say, my plot synopsis makes the movie sound a lot cooler than the movie actually is.
And that's saying quite a lot, because I couldn't contain myself once we got to the Stonehenge part.
The Stonehenge part, yeah. I was really trying to figure out how to work that into the plot summary.
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, I think I did a pretty good job summarizing this movie. It was kind of hard, honestly. And I did leave out quite a bit. Like, I felt like I left out quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. You did a good job. I'm surprised you were able to get it to sound like a cohesive movie.
Yeah. I left out certain parts because, well, you'll see why. Whew.
Yeah.
Okay, so immediately, let's talk about this new title sequence, because we had incredible title sequences in the past two movies. The first one was great. I felt like the second one upped the ante. This one still opens with a jack-o'-lantern.
Right.
But it's like digital, and there's like synth music, and it's just super 80s. Yeah. And totally doesn't work.
See, I don't feel the total exact way you do. For me, this wasn't terrible. I didn't like it. I take it back. I kind of liked it. I
kind of liked it too.
Yeah.
But when I started thinking about the other ones, I was like, eh.
Right. And see,
it's fine.
Right. And you don't get the original theme here. You get some new composition, which, for me, at this point, once I hear the new composition, you don't hear those notes being played back and forth like you have in the last two.
Right.
It kind of sets the tone that this isn't exactly the same Halloween that we're going to be seeing like we had the last two times. And then, of course, we get the jack-o'-lantern being printed onto the screen, which kind of comes in pieces, and eventually you get the whole picture. That didn't work for me, the computer screen part. I mean, like I said, it kind of goes to show that this isn't exactly going to be the same that we've seen before, but I think they could have done much better, maybe? The synth music does not work for me. I'm sorry, John Carpenter, your last two compositions, this one and the last one, have not been my favorite at all.
Well, we find the setting of this movie is nowhere near Haddonfield, Illinois. We are in Northern California, and it begins on Saturday the 23rd, about 8 days away from Halloween.
Right.
And we see the very first movie also had the day and date, and it kind of kept track of it for you, except this one is much more excessive because we get a lot of days.
Yeah, there's a lot of date skipping.
Yeah, did you think the font was pretty bland?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me too much, but yeah, it was kind of, like it just kind of said, oh, it's good enough, and just threw it up on the screen.
So I'll disagree with you a little bit in the beginning, because the synth in the beginning I think is kind of cool. From there on out, I don't think it ever really works, except when they are driving into Santa Mira, there is a bit of a composition that I thought was fairly cool, but it's really brief. We don't get much of it.
Yeah, the opening composition is the best, and I'd say in the movie. But even for me, that's not saying too much.
We also have these noises back from Halloween 2, which was one of my problems with Halloween 2. When people pop up, we get these really ugly 80s electronic noises. It's really bad.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Of course, this movie has issues because it almost tells you nothing for the first who knows how long, but they blatantly make sure for you to know that a blue stone has been stolen from Stonehenge. And that's really early on in the movie, and it's not even talked about until probably like the last 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, the TV in this movie has played a huge role, and we'll have something to say about that when we get there. But yeah, it is kind of interesting too. I didn't notice this till just thinking about it now. Yes, on the TV was the piece. No, it was one of the big pieces of Stonehenge was taken, and then right after that plays the Silver Shamrock commercial, just to kind of a foreshadowing element there.
Right. So, what did you think of the Silver Shamrock commercial?
I hate it.
Kind of become an icon of.
I hate it so much.
This movie.
This
is what ties the movie. Like, people know this song.
Yeah. Okay. You'd be lucky to have kids really go crazy over a commercial. I mean, nowadays you have the Super Bowl, and commercials, or at least they used to be a big part of the Super Bowl, those being the funniest commercials and everything. Lately they have been kind of slipping, but that's beside the point. For a commercial to hit mainstream audiences is usually pretty rare. So when you have a commercial like this, which is not only has a terrible narration, but just looks super boring, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I hate this commercial, and they keep playing it over and over again, and it's so annoying.
It is played excessively throughout the movie to the point where it's just too much. It's like, yes, we get it. Okay, Silver Shamrock is the bad guy, clearly.
Yeah.
No surprise there. And I just thought it was really unbelievable. They have 3 really generic masks. If I was the kid that age, I would have no desire to wear one of those. I mean, It's stupid. And it's so funny because when we get to the doctor, whatever his name is, Tom Atkins' character, his kids are like, we don't want these plastic masks. Mom bought a Silver Shamrock. And then as soon as the commercial comes on, they run and put on their masks and like bob their heads and watch it. And
right,
it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. I don't get how this became popular. This movie lives in some fantasy, I guess.
I do want to say I found the opening hook of this movie to be pretty good. This guy is on the run from seemingly identical type men in suits with the synth and running around. I thought that was an intriguing hook. Where it really falters is they don't tell us enough. There's not enough connections, and what we do learn is so on the nose, it's just really ridiculous because he's clutching the mask. He's like, they're going to get us. He sees the commercial. They're going to kill us all. But we don't learn who this guy is. It takes quite a long time for us to figure it out. And I don't know. There's just a whole lot of lack of information. We don't really know much about these characters. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to connect with the movie. You can have a good hook, but then you can't remain that shallow. You have to go deeper and do this.
Yeah, I agree. The opening of this movie really isn't all that bad. I was actually kind of liking this opening at first. We don't get too much until a little bit later when we find out who this guy is, and it takes even longer to figure out why he was even being chased in the first place, or who even are the guys that are chasing him. That takes a bit longer to get to. But I think this actually kind of works a little bit, because it kind of just throws you right into the middle of the situation, and you don't find out any information really until a bit later in the movie. You got to stick around to figure it out.
Right. So they're trying to set up a mystery, but here's where the mystery picks back up when one of the kind of assassin robots, whatever, comes into the hospital and murders him, and then he goes to his car and lights himself on fire. What did you think of that?
I was surprised at first, and I was like, "Oh, that's a pretty smart idea." I mean, in the hospital, you're going to have plenty of cameras all over the place, right. So I mean, that's a pretty good way of I'd say getting rid of the evidence. He just walks his car and just lights himself up. That was a bit surprising. But it made sense that they would do that, just to hide the evidence and such. I thought the death was pretty brutal too. He kind of like pressed his eyes in and crushed his skull, as they say later. I was kind of surprised. I guess I wasn't too surprised because Halloween is pretty well known for its pretty graphic deaths. Right. But yeah, it was engaging. I was like, it got me interested. I'll say that.
Well, one issue that I did have with it, though, I felt the makeup was pretty poor because the shot, I believe he like pulls the top bridge of his nose up. And if you look at it, it just looks so fake, though, at the very end. Yeah, it's a brutal death, but the camera lingers on it too long. The makeup isn't good enough for the camera to linger. I mean, I was watching it on a screen pretty close to my face, so maybe that's why, but I feel like the makeup effects in this movie are not good at all. And neither is any of the visual effects, really.
Yeah. So, okay, I have a question. The assassin goes into his car. Now, is that a clay face that I saw? Because it looked pretty fake to me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't... Okay, is it really?
Yeah, it's a dummy or whatever.
All right. I got flashbacks of Terminator 1 when I saw that. And he's dumping Terminator it all 1. On himself and it lights him up.
Yeah, those Terminator 1 effects are horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, especially that one scene when he's digging the bullets out of himself. Yeah.
They're bad.
That's where I got it from. I was like, is that claymated? Is that a clay face? So that makes a lot more sense. I didn't go back and look at it, but it looked like it just running through the movie.
Yeah, not going to get any Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects.
No, no, they are not.
I do want to say that I think the cinematography is fairly good in this movie. I think they create a pretty good... It's pretty well shot, and honestly, the beginning is pretty good. Like, when we see Tom Atkins, like, running down the hallway trying to chase this guy, and the synth music is going, and I think the beginning of this movie is fairly solid. Yes, there are issues, but it is solid. Where it falls apart is when, I believe, the daughter comes into the movie. Then the movie pretty much goes downhill from there.
I could agree with that. The cinematography really isn't all that bad here. I mean, it's not anything special, but it really isn't all that bad here. I would probably say it is kind of an improvement from the second one, but I would, from my own opinion, just a little bit of an improvement from the second one. But yeah, I agree. Once the daughter comes in, this whole movie just explodes.
So what do you think? First, what do you think of Tom Atkins' character, Daniel?
Let's see. We were first introduced to him when he in the hospital, correct?
Well, is it? I think it's when he comes home to his kids, right? No, you're right. He's in the hospital, and then we see him go home. I don't know. What's your first impression of his character?
At first, I didn't know he was going to be the main character up until we follow him home. But I mean, he's fine at first. Nothing really of note. Although a little bit later, when he's talking with his nurse coworker Agnes, that's when I began to question him, because he says to her, he says something. They have him and the black nurse have a conversation, and he says to her, "That's why I should have married you, Agnes," and then spanks her, and then she says, "Hey, watch it. I play for keeps, and then spanks him back. And I'm just like, what kind of work environment is this?
Oh, but yeah, I mean, 80s.
Yeah. Now, introduction to his character is not bad. It's fine. I mean, I guess I don't really have many thoughts on it because his character, I didn't know he was going to be the main character at first.
He's definitely thinks he's Mr. Cool with that mustache. Yeah, he's flirting with the other nurse. We see the coroner really likes him throughout this movie, and I believe she kisses him like on the lips really quick when they depart. I was like, whoa, what? He doesn't care for his wife at all, and no. I was under the impression, I'm very confused about the husband and wife relationship, because it seems like they're separated, but he still has like a key to the house because he comes into the front door. But then later on the phone, he's like, I promise I'll take the kids for the weekend or something. Yeah. And that's very confusing. So I always thought they were separated or divorced, but it also seems like they're not. And he never makes any time for his kids because he'd rather go run off with this lady we're about to talk about. So he's a definite womanizer and Mr. Cool. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to his character.
Yeah, you're right. And it's kind of funny, too, because at least in the first Halloween movie and kind of the second one, Michael has been shown to go after those who are pretty promiscuous. Very much in the first one. Yes. And it's very backwards in this one because Michael, of course, is not in this movie at all. And not really a spoiler. It's just that's how it is. So it's kind of funny to see that he's ends up being the hero of the movie. It feels kind of backwards from the original Halloween formula, but okay,
Right.
whatever, I guess. Yeah, the relationship with the wife was very not explained at all. Um, it's very clear that he's a very bad father.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he never makes time for his kids. The wife is constantly yelling at him, and at first I was just like, "Oh, great, we got one of these," another nagging ex-wife. And come to find out, maybe she has a reason to be the way that she is, the way that she treats him. Um, Honestly, this is what I'm confused about. Why do we keep coming back to the kids and the ex-wife? Because they don't do anything except for maybe motivation for later when the masks come into play.
It's yeah. I mean, he is supposed to be there for them, and he totally neglects his responsibilities
Right.
because he just wants to go, honestly, get in bed with this lady that he just met and wants to just
Right.
take advantage of her and see what he can get from her. So he totally blows off his kids. That's why his wife is always yelling at him. And they do have quite a few conversations on the phone, but they're all fairly pointless because it's mostly just her yelling. You can't hear anything she says. And he's like, I know, I'll be back like tomorrow, or I'll make it up to them. And they have quite a few, like more than I realized until you brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it is really weird because there is a promotional trailer for Halloween. They even show the title of the movie. They show a clip
Right.
from it. And they're like, don't forget to do the big giveaway after the showing of Halloween. And to me, this was a strange choice. And then towards the very end, they put on Halloween again.
Right.
And to me, this was a little bit too on the nose from the creators, where it's the third one in there. And I'm like, okay, the problem with this, and especially the problem with putting it in at the end, is because now all I can think about is wishing I was watching Halloween and not this. Don't ever call attention to a better movie in the series than yours.
I totally agree. They really could have. I mean, I get it. They're trying to show that this movie is not connected to any universe that Halloween is in. It's very much a separate entity. But that also makes me beg the question: why do we have the title of Halloween on this then? I mean, sure, it's set around the day of Halloween. I get that part. But so what? Is that what they were trying to go for? It's just this anthology of terrible things happening on on Halloween Day? When they decided to make this anthology film, John Carpenter and the other producer?
Well, the only problem is, so we get Halloween 1 and 2 with Michael Myers. And so when everybody sees they're calling it Halloween 3, everybody assumed Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and Sam Loomis were coming back. But the problem is they didn't tell anybody about that. They didn't tell the audience. It was only an internal discussion. So when the movie came out, everybody was so shocked and confused that it had nothing to do with the rest. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, I don't know, making a Pirates of the Caribbean movie and, Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and then it's about, I don't know, it's about Avatar characters or something.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, that's probably a bad example, but the point that I'm trying to make is it literally doesn't make any sense for them to call this Halloween 3, because the third denotes a continuation of the previous two films.
Right.
It confused a lot of people, and it really hurt the movie because of the title.
Maybe it was a marketing scheme. If they put a 3 on there, then we'll get more sales. But why not just call it Halloween Season of the Witch? I mean,
oh yeah,
that would make it not nearly as misleading, I would think.
No, and the other problem is it's not in 3D. Friday the 13th Part 3 came out this year, and it was 3D. Like, that was the thing.
Right.
The third installment was going to be 3D, and this wasn't.
Right.
I know they talked about making 2 3D. I don't understand why they didn't make this I can understand why, because it would have been horrible 3D.
Yeah, 3D, old 3D is bad 3D.
Yeah, especially 3D from the 80s. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've got another issue we need to talk about. So,
okay.
Whatever his name is, Tom Atkins, is in a bar. And somehow the woman finds him in the bar.
Yeah.
How in the world did she know he was going to be there?
I don't know. Honestly, I didn't know this was the lady before. I had forgotten about her between the two scenes because her character is just so weak between one scene and the next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no answer for you. The movie is just like, we got to get this plot moving somehow. And they just said, Barb, give her in the bar.
Well, yeah. And then he's like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll help you. And they go to her father's shop. And she's like, I've been doing some detective work. And she is literally just reading from his date book.
Yep. Yep. Ooh. And not to mention his schedule is so just random. And, and as she says, oh, he kept a tight schedule. And he's just like, on this day, April whatever, we do this. On this day, we do this. It feels very straightforward, like almost as if you really wouldn't even need a schedule for it unless you just are that bad at timekeeping.
Yeah. It's pretty... Okay, and this introduces the problem of talking about, extraneous information that is irrelevant to the plot.
Yeah.
And finally, they will either get to the point, or we never get the point. And it's just a bunch of wasted dialogue to fill the runtime.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're so right. This scene, honestly, if she just said that my father was a very good timekeeper and said maybe something along the lines of he was a very busy man, had to schedule 8 things per day, that'd be fine. Instead, we get a 30-second dialogue where she's saying on this day she did this and on this day he did that. Like you could have crushed that all together into something very, very quick. I mean, I get that they want to say that she said she found that he went to the factory of the Silver Shamrock. That's fine, and you could have just said that he also went to the factory on this day. But whatever, right.
Yeah, she could have said, fine. Well, it all seems normal except this one where with the Silver Shamrock, something seems out of the ordinary about that.
Right.
That's all you had to say.
Right. Exactly. That would have made it so much. The scene would have been over soon, and you would have been able to move on to the next scene when they actually do decide to go to the Silver Shamrock factory. But we linger on it for some reason.
Well,
there's a thing called Occam's razor, where I mean, it's kind of in philosophy, but it's where you cut out all the fluffiness of the material, so you get to the root of the issue, not dance around it or fluff it up. You need this here.
Well, another thing that I had with the writing was she called her father Papa. I don't know I don't know how old she is, 25, 30, that calls their dad Papa, and then in the very next scene she calls him father. Those are totally different, and I'm like, that's not consistent with the character. Like, if she would have called him Papa and then said, well, my dad did this, but father is very formal. I don't know, I just picked that out of the writing. I'm like, that really doesn't seem consistent with the character.
Yeah, I agree. It's lame.
And then, of course, we see, for some reason, I put him down as Tom Jones. I felt like calling him Tom Jones. I don't know. I'm just like, so Tom Jones got some beer and he's going road tripping with this young lady. I don't think he cares much. I think he's just jumping at the chance to get with this lady.
This brings up a very interesting question. What reason does the doctor have to go on this investigation, realistically? Other than to get with the young lady, there is, in my mind, no real reason for him to be even on this road trip to go to the Silver Shamrock factory.
The only thing they mentioned before is they're like, this has really got you bothered, doesn't it? And he's like, yeah, I can't stop thinking about it. So I think he wants to satisfy his own curiosity, but then at the same time, it's clear because he's got like beer right there, and he just like calls his wife and he's like, hey, I can't go with the kids. I'm gonna go hang out in a hotel with this lady. And this guy is old enough to be her father, honestly.
Absolutely. And maybe they're
It's
going for that fatherly role, but that doesn't make any sense
oh
because it
no.
never does that.
Oh no, because she immediately is like, "Hey, I want to take my clothes off."
Like
and,
immediately. Like she wastes no time.
and you know what? She had that lingerie packed already.
Absolutely.
She
That's
was
what I was saying. I was just like, in my nose, I said, wait, where did she get that? Because maybe I was thinking, okay, maybe she went out and bought some. But then I
No.
was like, no.
Where would she buy it?
Oh, that scene was, I was like, what is this movie?
It takes on a whole new level when you find out this is like all premeditated between the two, where she's like, "Oh, he's so hot, can't wait," and I'm
Yeah, their plan was to go figure out what happened to her dad. That was the plan, air quotes.
exactly, and they're just so slow about it, slow about it, and. Well, on their way there, we get one of those scenes I really hate. I hate driving scenes where there's just voiceover while they're driving.
Oh,
For some reason, it feels so fake. Like they both are not actually having a dialogue, but they just recorded their lines separately.
Right.
And it doesn't feel very natural. A number of movies have done that, not just this one.
Yeah.
And we get a big
I
exposition dump. Yeah, we get a big exposition dump. Thankfully, I guess, like we needed to know he was Irish, like we needed to know it was previously a toy factory, because we already would have found that out when they take a tour and we see all the toys. Right. It's really stupid because she's like, oh, after World War II, he converted it to a toy factory and it's a big Irish town. And I'm like, well, there's only like 10 people in it.
Okay, so I have a oh, actually, go ahead.
No, I want to hear the question. I'm intrigued.
Did you get a giant Troll 2 vibe when they entered the town with all the townspeople?
Oh, yes.
Because I did.
Oh, yes.
I was brought back to Troll 2, that terribly magnificent movie when we got into the town and everyone was just like, staring at him and watching him drive by, which is so bad for me to be reminded of that in this way.
Well, Troll 2, I'm sure probably stole from this because Troll 2 came out in 1990.
Oh, yeah.
But in a lot of ways, yes, you can see how whoever made Troll 2, he's like a foreign guy. He clearly watched this movie and he's like, yes, I'm going to do this, but better. And It just is a utter fiasco. This isn't scary. This is actually... A lot of movies have done this before where the whole town is staring at them. And it's so creepy. And I'm like, this isn't scary at all. Like, no. And when they get to the motel, this is a clear ripoff of Psycho.
That's very true. Yeah. Now you mention it, it makes a lot more sense.
They're both motels. He says, let's pretend this is in Psycho, just for those of you who may not remember, we did do a review of it.
Yes.
Go listen to it. It's when Marion Crane's sister and her boyfriend, he's like, let's pretend we're husband and wife. And you go distract him while he shows you the room, and I'll go look at the registry to see if Marion's name was on there. Well, this is exactly what happens in this movie.
Right.
And it's really weird because I have a big question about this guy who owns the motel. Because he's got an Irish accent, and I'm like, okay, so either this town is this weird Irish community that has like no connection with the outside world, because most immigrants over time lose their accent from their homeland, except for this guy, or he's like a first generation Irish immigrant, and I don't know, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, not to mention the guy is fruity. This old man is.
He's crazy. Well,
He's crazy.
I thought it was really weird how he's about to he gives them a tour of this really small room and bathroom, and it's like, yeah, we have eyes, we can see. And he said, it's cozy, it's quiet, and the price is right.
Yeah.
They already bought the room. Why are you trying to sell it to them for? Weird line.
And then right after, is it right after this we get the two? Yeah, we get the other woman and the family in the RV show up.
Ooh.
There really isn't much of a reason for either of them to be here, except for the fact that they show off later they become plot devices. But for right now, there is no reason.
They're total plot devices, and I find it funny how all of these people arrive at the same time.
I know, and they all, at least two of them, have this pretty similar problems
Right.
with Maggie and the other.
Exactly, and the other guy is a salesman who
Yeah,
hits his wife, who is really weird. He's got a really bratty kid that just rides his bike away to who knows where and like flips off his mom. And
right.
it doesn't make any sense because they have an RV, so staying at a motel defeats the purpose of an RV.
Oh, exactly. I mean, if you're gonna have an RV, you might as well utilize it. That feels like a waste of money almost.
This was just a cheap knockoff of like Cousin Eddie from the National Lampoon's Vacation movies.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
I don't know if that's it at all. I mean, I think Vacation came after this, but
Yeah.
clearly, I don't know. I was like, Okay, this is where it gets really, really weird
Yeah.
because she says, "Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice?" And I'm like, and he said, "That's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge." And I'm like, and that's a horrible, cheesy line. And
This movie turns so quick. We were in that room for no more than maybe 30 seconds, and then she's like, "That's a stupid question, doctor."
that was
What?
weird. So it all of a sudden becomes a really bad, cheesy 80s porno, essentially.
Yeah.
I have not seen an 80s porno. I never will, but it's pretty obvious. I'm, can pretty much deduce from
Right.
this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. In my notes, when she says, "Now that's a dumb question to ask," and then kisses him. Wait, other way around. Sorry. When he says that's a dumb question to ask, because he said, "I can go sleep in the car, or I can be better than sleeping on the floor," and then she says, whatever. In my notes, I put in all caps, "What in the world? How did we get here?"
Yeah. Talk about lack of setup and motivation.
Oh yeah,
It's
like so fast.
I mean, clearly his setup is that he's a womanizer, and he's like, that's why I said I don't really think he cares that much. I think it's to satisfy his own curiosity, and he's like, oh, here's a young woman inviting me to go with her, and
Right.
apparently I am such a magnet for women that none can resist me, so this should be pretty easy to go to bed with her. But I'm like, what is with her? My gosh, she is a floozy. And I'm like, is she just
quick.
extremely needy and desperate that she's willing to sleep with like this middle-aged man? And she even brought lingerie. And I'm like,
The best part is they went on this trip to find out what happened to her father.
Right.
It seems we've forgotten what exactly we're here for.
now that we're here on our
Right.
honeymoon,
Yeah. I didn't care about my father in the first place.
yeah, I just wanted you ever since I saw you. Yeah, it's really, really bad.
And it gets worse, seeing a little bit later when she's actually shown in the lingerie. But we'll get there in a sec, because there's more to get through.
And honestly, at this point, I'm like, she's just a really bad actress.
Oh,
Worst
yeah.
in the movie.
Oh, yeah, she's not good.
Did you think it was funny when they said there's a curfew and they even pull the cat inside?
Yes, there's a curfew. They have
It's
loudspeakers. They have, I think, security cameras.
Yeah, everywhere.
The whole deal. It's a totalitarianistic city or town, I guess, controlled by Mr. Cochran. What in the world?
Yeah, and there's a really big flaw with this because they said the curfew is at 6. Everybody confine your activities to your own home. Well,
Right.
the scene right after that shows him going to a convenience store in the
Right.
town, buying liquor or something. And I'm like, what happened to the curfew?
Yeah, throw the curfew out the window.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw that same thing too. Like literally the next shot is him in the convenience store, clearly after 6, getting
Right.
himself a bottle of something, some liquor. What?
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense.
That would,
and
like, I understand if accidentally writing yourself into a contradiction in your script, but the very next shot, I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, the store didn't need to be open. It could show him trying to get in. It would have been much creepier if he's like going to all of these stores and they're all closed and he looks at his watch and it's like 6:00 or something and he's like,
Right.
What? This is weird. But no, they don't. And he runs, I don't know, he takes the back alley or something.
Yeah.
And he runs into a hobo who the hobo's like, oh, I've been here forever. They won't give me a job. He only brings in like Irish people or something. And he gives him a drink, which I thought was really gross.
Yeah.
And I like how the hobo talks about burning down the factory with Molotov cocktails. And I'm like, yeah, 3 Billboards style. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And here's the other thing, too. This scene just piles on the exposition just out of nowhere. This film is so uneven. It's ridiculous. Like, even me just saying, oh, it's kind of uneven is totally not even giving it enough justice because it's ridiculous. Because we just went from this movie's all over the place. We just went from the girl and Doc just about to get in bed to him going to get some liquor to talking to some random dude in the alley and he's just spilling exposition to him. Like, holy cow. Like, none of this, the worst part is, none of this makes any difference at all to the story. Like, none of this that we've seen in the past, I'd say, minute and a half. Yeah, there's been a minute and a half, I guess, to really impacts the story in any way.
And I'm confused. So the hobo dies fairly soon after this.
Right.
Well, if they've got these agents patrolling the town and they can easily take out anybody, why don't they just do that to Tom Atkins' character?
The only excuse I can give it is that they don't know that he's here to do what he is meant to be there for. Other than that, I have no idea. I don't even know why the hobo guy dies in the first place.
Because he spoke bad about Cochran in the factory.
Okay. I guess I'll buy it.
Therefore, death.
I guess I'll buy it.
I was confused because the guy ripping off his head, I'm like, is that Anthony Hopkins? It looks like Anthony Hopkins.
He grabs him by his face and bites his tongue out. Or I guess bites the cheek, part of the cheek off.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, and Silence of the Lambs. Maybe he took his tongue out too.
Oh, you're talking about Silence of the Lambs now.
Yeah.
Yes. In this movie, they just rip his entire head off of his body with like these funny little goopy noises.
They just rip it clean off.
So my big problem so far with all of the deaths in this movie is they are fairly slow. Yeah. Because if these, it just kills the tension. Like in the beginning of the movie when the guy was just strangling him, I had no fear for that guy in his life because it didn't look like he was being strangled. And they're just like, it's just like so slow. It's not scary at all.
This kind of goes to the beginning too, when when those two agents were chasing the other guy, the father, I guess. And they pinned him down on the ground and they were choking him, I guess. Right. I guess the film's way of showing that they're choking somebody is to put both hands on either side of the neck, but not interlock them. And it looks really bad. Same thing here. It just does not look good at all. It looks like it's fake. It's just so not good. And it probably is.
Right. And again, we get more pointless dialogue because for some reason, Ellie is walking by the motel. I don't know where she's been. I don't know where these people go.
Right.
And Marge, we learn her name is Marge Gutman. She just like honks at her.
I know.
And she's like, oh, whoops, sorry. And then she's just talking to her. And I'm like, this is so pointless. We don't need to know any of this stuff.
Right. They're trying to set up her character really quick because she's going to die here in a sec.
Yeah, quickly set her up so people feel sad when she dies.
Quick, as fast as we can. Do it. and yeah. And then this next scene, Ellie takes a shower and then wraps herself in a comforter.
Yeah.
But why would you not the comforter? That's going to be wet now.
That's gross.
I don't get it. Why did she do that? I mean, granted, later she has the comforter on and comes out with the laundry on. Yes, I understand that. But she just got out of the shower, wrapped herself in the towel, wraps herself in the comforter. Now the comforter is wet. Way to go.
Yeah, so we're about 40 minutes into this movie, and we're going nowhere. We're going nowhere.
Literally nothing's happened. What is it? Since we got here, since like, what, 10 minutes or so? In film time,
yeah,
I
I
think?
guess so. I guess it's probably been about 10 minutes. I don't know. I mean, like we said, it's a fairly interesting, it's an okay setup, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then once she comes in, they get there, nothing happens until like the very end, like the last, even the last 30 minutes are a slog to get through. It's so slow.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I'm like, okay, why did we need to see her getting out of the shower? Because you don't really see any nudity. It's like, yeah, we get it. Like every Halloween movie, apparently, and like every horror movie has to have some obligatory nudeness to it or whatever. But we don't really get any. And yeah, she puts herself in the comforter, and I'm like, what are these scenes? Like, I don't get it.
That's a good question. What are these scenes?
Well, and then right after that, he calls the coroner and learns nothing. And I'm like, this is pointless. She'll call you if there's something. But he calls her again like another 3 times or something. And then, of course, I'm like, okay, so basically now it's an 80s porno. That's all that is from now on.
Yep.
Okay, I assumed when she was going to take the comforter off, she was going to be naked. But she put the wet comforter back on after she put those clothes on. And I'm like, this is just weird. It's like so out of left field.
It comes so quick because before we don't see him actually get into bed. You just see him kiss and then it moves on, right? Yeah. We don't know what happened. The movie never really talks about it until this moment. It's clear what's happening now. Unmistakable. Now, the fact that she actually went out and got herself or brought some lingerie is beyond belief for me.
She brought it. There's no way she could have. She brought it. There's no way that town sells that kind of stuff.
That's what I was thinking, which makes it even worse. Because this is no trip to find out what happened to her father. That is a guarantee. Because if she was so distraught about her dad and really wanted to know what happened, she would have gone off with or without the doctor, I feel. This makes absolutely no sense. And this scene, you could have cut this scene out along with almost everything so far in this town, and nothing would have changed in this movie at all.
That's pretty much the problem. Is if you cut out the second act, you just are left with the first and third act, and the movie is like 40 minutes or something. Right. There definitely could have done more things with this town, but the writing is so incredibly poor that they had no idea what to do. So they're like, let's just put in... they're not really sex scenes, I guess, because it cuts away every time, and thankfully we really don't see anything. Except we do get to see his butt, which was pretty gross, and I didn't want to see. Right. And it's just weird. It's really poor writing. This is a poor script. It's really
it makes
bad.
It even worse, too, when he asks her, hey, wait, how old are you? And she says, relax, I'm older than I look.
That was scary.
And I'm asking, in my notes I said, you're asking this now?
Now? Yeah. Ooh, little late. Well, and then of course we get the lady blows her mouth off or something. It like directly shoots right into her orifice on her face, and it's really gross actually. What the end product is, and bugs come out.
Yeah,
what?
I don't get where the bugs came from. I guess they develop inside the body, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, it is a pretty cool setup, I guess, to kind of see what exactly the real intent of the factory is. 'Cause that's what the scene is all about, with Maggie, or it was Marge dying, when she gets shocked. When she messes with the emblem and then gets shocked, and then she basically dies, in this scene.
Okay.
The when she dies though, the face doesn't look so good.
Oh no, it's horrible makeup.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's go ahead and just talk about this right now then, since we're bringing it up.
Okay.
The plot, Cochrane's plot to play a quote joke on the children is really, really bad and doesn't make any sense, because everybody knows where Silver Shamrock is, and that's where he's producing it. So he's going to just mass murder children, and then he's just going to go to jail. They're going to arrest him. I'm like, so what is your plan? What are you doing? What is the point? Okay, just because you want to murder them for fun? And I'm like, you're such a fool because it's got your labeling and brand right all over it. Right. It's like murdering someone and being like, writing your name right there. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. This is so stupid.
Yeah, this makes absolutely no sense, his plan. Like there are plans where that make no sense. But this one makes absolutely no sense because, like you said, his company name is stamped all over those masks. Everyone knows who makes it and where they come from. If he were to pull off this mass genocide, he would have been caught immediately. There's no question about it. The problem is the guy is stupid because he would know, even if he's a practical joker, because it does set up at one point in the movie that he started out his career by selling practical jokes, which is fine. And he wants to pull this, I guess, ultimate joke on all the children for some witchcraft thing and whatever. and yeah, like you said, it makes no sense. Like, it literally makes no sense because the guy, you would think, would be smart enough to know that his name and company is stamped everywhere on those masks. And even if all of them were blown away, there's still going to be some that exist. Or at the very least, everyone's going to know where they came from. It boggles my mind that this is the plan for the bad guy and that somebody wrote this on a page and gave it to people who said, oh, it's good. How? I want to know how this came into fruition. This makes no sense.
The only way they could salvage this, the only way they could do that is, what I was thinking of is if they produced multiple masks, like different kinds. Like, I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it have been kind of cool if they made maybe like masks of presidents, and it shows the president of the United States at like a Halloween party, and he's wearing a mask of like, I don't know, a different president from the past, and we see maybe like different leaders doing that as well. So that way he would have like, totally took down the country in that way. That's more of a grander scheme. When he does say it's a joke on the children, that's a pretty chilling line, actually. Right. But otherwise, I'm like, it would have been much more impactful if this was on a bigger scale and not so small. And it would have showed like the president at a party with a mask on and other people where it's like, whoa, okay, this is actually serious. Like, he's going to assassinate the president and like half of the elected officials or something.
Right. And I get it. It's scary because children are involved. I understand that. And later on in the movie, we do see the RV family, their kid dies right in front of them. It doesn't show... It does show it, but there's, of course, a mask over what happens. Right. Which is pretty controversial, I would say. To have a child be put in that kind of a danger. I mean, obviously it's fake because it's a movie, but still, I mean, putting a child in that kind of danger in any sense is pretty controversial. Right. At the same time, though, you got to have a plan that makes sense. That it is, you can understand why he would do this. The movie doesn't make any chance. It doesn't even try to do that.
Oh no, not at all. And I'm really disappointed with the way we are introduced to Cochran, because there's about 20 men in white coats to come take this lady away. It's really excessive. Yeah. For some reason, they need like 20 of them to do it, even though half of them stand around. And then for some reason, Cochran, at this point of the night, everybody should be in bed, but he's in a full suit and he drives down in his limo. And that's how we're introduced to him. And he's just like, hey, friend, good to see you. Don't worry, we're going to take her to the factory where she'll get the best medical care. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I was just really disappointed. This is how we meet the main villain.
Right, yeah, the lead villain we find out later. I mean, at the time, I don't think we don't know too much, but looking back on it, his introduction was flubbed because he should have had a huge introduction to show that, hey, this is the bad guy. Or at the very least, had a big introduction, not know who he is, and then find out later, hey, he's the bad guy. That would have worked leagues better than what we got here. This is so poor.
Oh, it's totally poor. And we're about 50 minutes into the movie right now. Basically, nothing has happened.
Yeah, and in my notes, when Marge has the misfire, is what they call it. Yeah. In my notes, I put something finally something spooky happened. Because it had been a good half an hour before we really saw anything scary. Like anything.
Right, but those visual effects are so bad. Like when that beam comes out of it, oh, it's horrible.
Yeah,
but
it's not good.
I mean, these characters are as shallow as the kiddie pool.
Oh, what characters? There's nothing here.
And I mean, pretty much all the dialogue. The characters are pointless. The dialogue is pointless. This is just like borderline horrible.
Oh, it's bad
Right now.
It's so bad. Like, you know how cardboard, especially when you have cardboard boxes, they have 2 layers, or I guess 3 layers. You've got the outer layer, and you've got that zigzag in the inside,
yeah, it's
and the outer layer. Yeah, you
yeah.
take out 2 of them, the first and the second, and you just have that. That's what these characters are. Just that last layer of cardboard. It's so thin, it makes it's frustrating.
Ooh, scathing. Honestly, Mr. Cochran reminded me of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
I can see that.
He talks like this. So, hello, welcome to my factory.
Yep.
Yes, I'm evil. It's just like so obvious.
Right.
And I pretty much didn't write anything about the whole factory scene because it's really stupid and pointless.
Yeah.
I did jump in when she sees her dad's car conveniently half exposed back there.
Right.
And I'm like, why did they keep it? Why didn't they just go drive it in a ditch like in Psycho? And why did they have the tarp up halfway? Are they stupid?
Not only that, but they also bring in, all the agents and they kind of push her away.
That was funny.
Evident. It's clear that something happened. That it's his fault.
I think it's funny because it's almost supposed to be like, wait, remember we're looking for her dad.
Right.
And it's like, no, we already know they got him from the very beginning of the movie. So it's not, she knows he's dead. And she knows that's where he was last. And she's like, oh, they must have him in there somewhere. Oh, wait, he's dead. I'm like, so what does this have to do with the plot? We already know about the dad. Get off of it. Okay, we're past that now. I mean, at least we should be. I don't think the movie is because the script has really big issues, but
right. And the worst part is, they had to remind us. Oh, by the way, we're still searching for her father because we had everything else before this happened. Yes. And we was like, oh wait, we forgot too. Wait, by the way, the father. The father has a connection here.
Yeah, she's
it's
like,
clear.
Where have I seen that car before? Oh my gosh, yeah.
How could I have forgotten? It's my dad's.
Yeah, and I'm really, really confused because... So are we supposed to assume her dad ran from Santa Mira, like, all the way to that gas station, which is really close to the hospital? Because that's an extremely far to run because they kept his car there and we see him running in the beginning.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
It takes him like a whole day to drive there, it seems like.
I didn't think about that. That's very true. That's stupid.
I know. I'm like, her dad is like old. I'm like, nobody can run like, I don't know, 50 miles or something. It was crazy.
Right. No, how was this overlooked?
I know. That's why I'm like, this is really bad in the plot.
Yeah.
Okay. Something I think we can connect to the other movie is I think the henchmen are very Michael Myers-esque with their movements and whatnot.
Yeah, they are very stone-faced. Not nearly as scary as Michael Myers, but yeah, I think there is a parallel there between the two.
I did find him when he finds Ellie gone and he is like slinking around the town trying to get to the factory. I found that to be fairly good, kind of it's not really a chase scene, kind of macabre or eerie, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. That's like the one piece of excitement we've had since the murder at the hospital, which was like 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. This ending scene at times is fine. At times, I think this part was pretty entertaining. Like, finally we get something, that's entertaining in this movie.
Okay, so I want to talk about I really want to know your initial reactions to this.
Okay.
When he is in the factory and he slowly opens the door and you see that really old woman sewing, what did you think of that?
I was confused because I had no idea what this movie was doing at this point. I didn't know where I knew we were in the factory. I knew that much. But to see that old woman sewing, I was just beyond confused at this point, and I was just wondering, what does this have to do with anything? Turns out nothing really. It's just some robot, some rare robot that Cochran really likes.
From Germany.
I don't know. It wasn't scary. It really didn't do anything for me. It confused me, if anything.
It's really out of place in this movie. Like, it doesn't belong in this movie.
Yeah.
But when he does open the door, I mean, it was like, oh gosh, this is creepy. And it was effective in being very creepy and very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, dang, I really actually like this, but I wish it was in a different movie or it was better used. It doesn't belong. This movie doesn't deserve to have some creepy imagery like that.
Right.
It's like the only kind of creepy imagery in the whole movie, though.
Right.
And which then has nothing to do with the movie.
Right. And then the movie kind of pulls a Scooby-Doo. They grab the man from the shoulders of the dock and they throw him back and they throw him against the table.
Yeah.
Into some random room that doesn't belong there.
No. The factory is very weird because it's, I don't know. I guess this is the forbidden area of the factory that they couldn't go into earlier.
Right.
But yeah, what is the point of having an animatronic lady there next to a fireplace in this room? And then they just throw him really far, and there's it's really goofy because the sound effects are bad,
mm-hmm.
like the punching, and then he just like punches his hand into his stomach or something, and it's just like a bunch of green goo. And I'm like, so they're just like goo creatures or something?
Right.
And then we get a ton of more extra unnecessary dialogue. And I do like this, actually. When Cochran says, "It'll be here soon, Halloween morning. It'll be a busy day for me. As a medical man, you should find it interesting." I'm like, okay, that actually intrigues me. I'm intrigued.
Right. It almost kind of felt like Christmas, almost, this way he was saying that. Like he's Santa Claus and this is Christmas. That's kind of what I got off of that. I also think it's kind of interesting that Halloween in this movie takes place on a Sunday. That was interesting, too. Because it's usually considered to be the Christian holy day, essentially.
Oh, yeah. A day of resurrection, not
right.
mass murder of the children. It's very interesting. But it really goes downhill when we see the giant piece of Stonehenge in there. And I pretty much forgot about Stonehenge until this time. And
Same.
Lots of silly, stupid scientist stuff. And I did actually really like the demonstration when he's like, "Let me show you a demonstration." And they see Buddy's family, which I think is really stupid, terrible characters.
Right.
And they like shove him in there, and that bratty kid gets his face like blown up, and like a snake comes out, and it's really gross. And we see this is the pumpkin from the very beginning credits. And it's twisted, but I actually like, okay, they finally did something right here.
Right, yeah, I don't mind this scene at all. I think this is pretty effective. I wanted more of this, though, instead of everything else that we got. And then, of course, you got Stonehenge.
Well, okay, so the big problem is, I said I just wish it didn't take 1 hour and 10 minutes. For us to get to this. And I'm like, the movie only has like 20 minutes left. I'm like, this is a really good idea, actually. But the movie's almost over.
Right. What pacing? What kind of? Why didn't they do this earlier? I really want to know why they thought that the doc taking a tour of the factory, with the doc walking through town with this girl, was far more interesting than this scene when the kid dies and the family dies because of that.
Yeah,
I don't understand why.
And once again, it's really annoying because they show way too many shots of all over the country, north, south, Midwest. We get it. It's everywhere. And they even have like vans driving around, almost to the point where it's like, that's really suspicious, okay? That you're like, please go inside and watch at 9. And it's really bad. And we finally cut back to his home, the doctor's home.
That's true, yeah.
I don't know. The kids are just in their masks. We don't see the mom. We don't see anything. But it's just like, oh, hey, there they are. again. And
Right.
again, and then for whatever reason, we cut back to the coroner lady and we get to see her fate. Why do we care? Why do we need it? Why do we need the bizarre background elevator music? I don't know.
I don't get it.
And they don't even show the kill. It's covered. I'm like, oh, why?
I know. And I go back to my original statement back towards the beginning of the podcast. There's absolutely no way that a commercial like this would make this big of an impact on the society. Like, there's no way. There can't be. I mean, what kind of reality do you live in if you think that this commercial of the Silver Shamrock really of only just the logo of the company being shown on screen, that's the only thing you get. Other than that, is all narration on a black background. Like there's no way you can't just nobody. That's not interesting. That's not visually interesting for anyone to say, oh, maybe I should go buy a Silver Shamrock mask and then I'll come back and I'll watch at 9, right? Because I want to know the giveaway. You know.
Yeah, there's no incentive.
Right, and I get what they're going for. I completely understand what they're trying to metaphorically say here. It's the big thing of subliminal messages being sent over the television. I get it. I get that theme of paranoia because of TV and such. The problem is this is the worst way possible you could have done it.
Right, and one of the good things that the movie Child's Play does is the Chucky character, the good guy doll, has his own cartoon TV show.
Right.
So we see the little kids watching a cartoon TV show, and of course they're going to want the doll. So this would have made more sense if they would have had maybe like a cartoon, or they would have seen their favorite, I don't know, kid celebrities wearing these masks. They should have done more promotion with the masks, because this commercial is, like you said, it can't have that kind of effect where it's just like, Mom, please, I gotta go get it. Like, I remember commercials from when I was a kid, and they've done a lot of this, and they make it look awesome.
Right.
Not just a little black and green logo, and it's just kids like this, wearing them. And
right.
It really doesn't work. And the only thing that does work is right before that, the doctor says, he asks him why. And Cochran says, why? Do I need a reason? And I'm like, yes, you actually do need a reason for Yes. Why are we watching this movie then? And, okay, I love how he says it's a joke on the children. That's a really chilling line. That's like the only thing that works. And then we just get a massive exposition dump where he talks about the history of... I always thought it was pronounced Sam Hain because that's phonetically how it's spelled. Yeah. And that's how Donald Pleasance says it in the last movie. If you'll remember, Michael Myers writes... It's technically pronounced Samhain. It's Celtic. He wrote that on the board. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I remember asking about that.
Yeah, so now they're like, that's the next movie. But the only problem is, every time he talks about this, I'm like, okay, I really want to see that movie now, actually. That sounds like a really horrifying, really good movie. Yeah. And it just makes me wish we had that movie, and this is not that movie at all. Like, he thinks he's redoing it, but it's not. It's not good at all.
Right. And this is, of course, we get the talks of witchcraft stuff and Festival of Samhain, and like you said, Sam Hain. And this is where the whole plan comes into play as to why exactly Cochran's doing this. For some reason, we have to pull... I'm not going to let this go. For some reason, we have to pull in Stonehenge. Lord knows why. Because that's probably one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of. And I've seen a lot of stupid things. I don't understand why. Can you please explain to me why Stonehenge is in this movie? I just want to know.
Well, from what he said, that's where they used to perform child sacrifices, was at Stonehenge. And there was a witchcraftian power, a part of the Stonehenge circle that enabled them to... I don't know. I think they actually transformed into beasts or something, or into monsters, or the children did, and they sacrificed them there to limit the children population, whatever that means. and just to be evil and sacrifice them and yada yada. That's all I know.
What reality does this movie live in? I really want to know. It's clear to us that Stonehenge was used to tell time, because we found out later that, and on the equinoxes, I think it's the equinoxes, or it's the other ones, the sun aligns in such a way where Stonehenge it does something. I can't remember exactly what. I know it's meant to tell time. That's beside the point. I highly doubt that it was actually used for witchcraft sacrifices and planet alignments and all this ridiculous stuff. I highly doubt that, and I find it very, very unbelievable that this movie would decide that, oh yes, we have to use Stonehenge because everyone knows Stonehenge, and play a movie off of that. That makes... I can't even begin to express how much sense that does not make. And it hurts, Corbin. It hurts that this movie decided to bring in Stonehenge and put in witchcraft and put in planet alignments and have to do TV consumerism and commercials and buying masks and I don't get it. I honestly don't understand what this movie is going for. And I don't get why I don't get how anybody thought this was a good idea. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that no one in the movie is like, hey, maybe this isn't such a good idea. Maybe we can do better than this. And somehow it skipped past the producers and the director and everyone, I guess. I'm so confused. I feel like I'm missing something, but I guess I'm not. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, and the other problem is Stonehenge isn't really Irish. It's in England.
Right. To make it even worse, it's not even Irish. Or in Italy.
Right, and the other problem is Stonehenge was believed to be constructed between 3000 and 2000 BC, a super, super long time ago, which doesn't consist with the Celtic festival of Samhain, which was like a harvest pagan festival. There's no historical evidence that they were celebrated at Stonehenge or even in the same century or millennium. Right. I don't know. They're really trying to connect two things that are totally unrelated.
Right.
But what they're hoping is that most people won't know the first thing about Stonehenge or Samhain or any of that stuff. But if you just do a quick Wikipedia search, which I literally just did, then you would just know they have nothing to do with each other. And it's pretty poor connections, like you said as well.
Right. And I feel like this movie thinks its audience is just stupid, which...
Yeah,
they're not. There's no way, because even I, who didn't look up the Wikipedia article for Stonehenge as I was just raging about it, I knew that Stonehenge was not used for anything like that. It was used, from what I remember, for telling time. And then, like you said, you just looked it up and found the answer. Yeah, and so it boggles my mind that the writers think that this movie, they can just do this without thinking twice and having the audience think, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense though.
Okay, my notes go on for another 2 pages or something. My notes were 9 pages long, actually. Double spaced, of course.
Yes, of course.
Okay, let's just go through this. I think I don't want to be any more misery talking about this ending, and I don't think our listeners want to either, because it goes on for another 20 minutes or something.
Please. Yes.
This is the longest climax in movie history, probably.
It's the longest and the most pointless I've ever seen.
I put in my notes, gosh, what a freaking slog this is. Can we please move on to the ending? So he rescues her. There's actually a pretty good shot of a quick up zoom on Cochrane's face. That was pretty good. I thought it was really stupid how he dumps all of the chips onto him and shocks him. It's pretty cheesy. I don't understand why Stonehenge burns up, and so does Cochrane and everybody else. The effect of them running away from the factory on fire is absolutely terrible.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad.
This twist is stolen out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I'm pretty sure, where she turns on him. It's really, really bad because it doesn't make any sense, because she was totally helping him. Why didn't she turn on him immediately or stop him when Cochran was there?
Not only that, but why would he switch her out for a robot? Because right in a second, it is clear that she becomes like just like every other assassin. Like, why would Cochran do that? And it feels like it was just written into the script because, oh man, we need more. Just write this in, just because.
I know, that was so frustrating because I was like, oh, this is the climax. But then they're like, wait, there's a twist. She's actually an animatronic thing.
Right.
And it's just B-level horror. I mean, it's stupid. Her arm is alive. Horrible acting. Nothing happens. And honestly, the scene undercuts the tension building of him trying to stop. The whole point is to stop the commercial from playing. This is a slowdown, and I get it. They're like, oh my gosh, no. But I don't feel that. It just undercuts the tension for me.
Right.
And of course, we come full circle. He comes running to the gas station. He says, where's the phone? It's life and death. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Right.
And, okay, this is really dumb, because the TV station wouldn't listen to a man yelling at them to stop the commercials. That just wouldn't happen.
Not only that, but he also tries to explain the situation to him. And he's like, and he even says, I believe in the phone, no, I'm not crazy, you have to listen to me, and tries to explain that the commercial's going to kill everybody, or, whatever he says. Like you said, who's going to listen to him? They're probably making a crap ton of money off of this commercial just to run it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the biggest commercial. It's the biggest phenomenon of 1982, apparently.
Oh yeah, and this also brings up another question: did they not review the commercial before airing it? Is that normal?
I guess they didn't know. I guess they needed the masks to know it would murder them. It wasn't the final commercial. The final commercial was the pumpkin, where it's just like boom, 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 boom,
right,
and then it blows them up, which is really dumb.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of confused about it. Is why didn't they review that? Because I mean, if there was going to be a special giveaway and then this happens, I feel like that would be a bait and switch, and that's totally illegal.
So, I guess this is really confusing, because I understand at this point there really wasn't such a thing as cable TV. But there were still different television stations. There was ABC, I think NBC, and maybe CBS or something. Those were the big three.
Yeah.
And they're all independent of each other. I don't know who he's calling that would enable them to shut off the commercials across the nation. I don't see how that works, and that they actually don't do it is pretty dumb. I do think this scene is actually pretty intense, because there is there's children right there, and he knows his own children are at home. And he knows they're about to be, I don't know, just a potential genocide of children across, I don't know, I guess the United States. I don't know if it's worldwide. Probably just the U.S. It doesn't make any sense that there's this company that would be able to just shut these commercials off, and it doesn't make sense. They do it for he's like, okay, good, you shut off the first one. Okay, good, you shut off the second one. Wait, why aren't you shutting off the third? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. And maybe it's kind of going to show that it's too late for the people who are running the TV station. But even then, why would you be wearing a mask while you're working?
I don't know. Honestly, though, I do think it is a great ending when he is just like, stop it, stop it, stop it. And it just cuts off. I don't like that he kind of looks at the camera and there's some reverb of his voice, but I found the ending to be, I love that there's no resolve. We don't know what happens. So it's pretty horrifying and chilling of an ending.
Yeah. And I'll agree with that. The ending the ending really isn't all that bad. It does not make up for the rest of the movie, but no. I think that it ended probably the best way it probably could have with this kind of a script.
I was like, great ending, which is a surprise because the rest of the movie is terrible.
Oh, it's so bad.
I don't understand it. See, that's the problem with this movie is the hook is fairly interesting. the murder, the man lighting himself on fire. It's like, whoa, what are we in for here? And then it's just like, they're like, we just don't care. What can we do? Let's just distract them with kind of intercuts. I don't know, air quotes, sex scenes. They're not sex scenes. They're just them either lying in bed or kissing, and then they cut away.
Right.
And let's fill in a bunch of extra crappy characters and whatnot. I don't know, whatever. This movie's terrible. Except for the beginning and end, the surprisingly works. Then they're like, let's give it a really good,
right,
just eerie ending. And I'm like, where did your confidence in writing just come from and ideas come from?
Right. Like, where was this
I know.
for the last hour and a half?
Oh, I don't know. Alan, what is your rating and recommendation for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch?
This is a poor excuse of a movie. Because nothing in this film works except for kind of the beginning and kind of the end. And everything else in between is either pointless, leads to nowhere, or is so poorly executed that it leaves no impact. And that's the worst thing I can say about this movie, is that it's utterly pointless. Because I get it. You have themes in there about subliminal messages on the television. You know, television ultimately is evil, and consumerism and all those popular trends, all those kind of mashed together. I get it. You know, that, I mean, we've talked about it several times in this podcast that the commercial is stupid. It's terrible. But I get what they're going for. Right? I understand the idea, and there are nuggets of potentially good things in this movie, but potentially good things don't make a movie. What makes a movie is something that you actually do. And that's part of what this movie is afraid of, is, I guess, it's afraid of, I guess, being a movie, because it does things that make absolutely no sense. Like the ending with Stonehenge and witchcraft and sacrifices and all this stuff. Tying those two together makes absolutely no sense, and whoever decided that was a good idea is ridiculous. And at the same time, you also have the beginning and end, which are, like I said, nuggets of potentially good stuff, because you have the main character, screaming into the phone, "No, stop it," and then before we get the resolution, it cuts off, and the audience is left with, "Oh, did it stop or did it not?" We never get that, and that is genuinely kind of spooky. The problem is, everything else in the movie before this it almost has no tie, except for maybe the last 30 minutes to that ending. And the fact that, like I said before, that this movie somehow made it through so many people and everyone's just like, "Oh, it's fine," boggles my mind. And I cannot get over the fact that this movie is as poorly written, as poorly acted as it is, because coming off of Halloween 1 and 2, which at the very least were decent, this is terrible. This is utter garbage, and it's terrible. And I hate to have to say that, because I wanted this movie to be good, because I really enjoyed the first one, and I really liked the second one. Like I said before the podcast, it was more like a DLC. The problem is, number 3 doesn't know what it's supposed to be. It's not a Halloween movie. It's hardly a movie in and of itself. And the problem is with Halloween 3 is that if you don't know what you are, and you're trying something new with this franchise, you're not going to go anywhere. The ultimate goal of Halloween is to essentially have a guy running around with a knife on Halloween night, killing those who are essentially promiscuous. At least that's the theme of the first two. The third one has nothing to do with that and goes the complete opposite direction, and has not only no Michael Myers in it, but there's essentially no single killer in the first place. The movie's a mess. You can't fix this movie. Anyways, I've ranted enough about this. The last hour and 34 minutes of us talking about this movie. If you haven't gotten the picture yet, then I don't know what to tell you. This movie's terrible. It's so bad. This is going to be a 2 out of 10. That's me being gracious. A 2 out of 10. This is a terrible movie. Don't watch it. Not recommend.
Wow. It's a little troubling John and Deborah produced this movie and wanted Tommy Lee Wallace to apparently write and direct. That's troubling. Anyways, Halloween 3 is the odd man out in this series, and for good reason. Putting aside its lack of connection to the first two movies, by itself, this movie is flat as its characters. During the hour and a half, little to nothing happens, so it is filled with empty dialogue and empty scenes. The premise is actually quite interesting, and in the hands of a better writer and director, they could have made this idea into a truly great horror film. The beginning is intriguing, and the very end is horrifying, but the middle is a slog to get through. This is an easily forgettable movie, and absolutely not worth the watch. That's why I'm giving Halloween 3 Season of the Witch 4 stars out of 10 with a solid not recommend.
If you couldn't tell, this movie got me a little bit frustrated. I don't like this movie.
Alan hated this movie.
Oh.
I gave it a 4 out of 10 because of the beginning and end. Kudos to them, and like I said, the premise is intriguing, so I don't think it's a total... In that way, it's not like 100% lost cause, but I'm never going to watch this again.
Same. Like you said, the beginning and end are the only... I would say even the only good parts of the movie.
Yeah.
In that sense, you still can't save it with the beginning and the end. There's no way. It's not one of these movies where if you watch it up until the end and everything else is not that great, the ending will make the movie all the better. This is not one of those. There's no way that can't be. I mean, getting to that point is, like you said, a slog. It's hard. It was hard for me to get through it, and I watched this on Saturday morning.
Oh yeah, I can't believe I could not do that. I watched this incredibly late at night, and it was like, I'm losing sleep over this, and I got to get up early.
Right.
Oh. Right. But we do it because we love it and we have fun doing it, and we really want to hear what you think about this movie, listeners. Where does Halloween 3 rank for you? Like we said, it's technically not a part of the Halloween series. Let's say it's not a part of the Michael Myers saga per se. It's non-canonical, but it's still a Halloween movie, I guess. So where does it rank for you? I'm really interested to know where it ranks for you, listeners. We're holding off on our total rankings until probably towards the very end. Once we finally see it, then we'll give you an overall list of where these movies work for us. We're keeping tabs, though. We're keeping track. But we want to say thank you for coming along with us on this one. You at least hopefully had fun listening to us trash this movie. Because I always have fun listening to, like, now playing trash really bad movies, and right. I like trashing this movie. So hopefully you had fun with that, because we did have fun. And, okay, I'll promise you this. Halloween 4 is much better than Halloween 3.
Oh, I sure hope so.
So, I believe it's redeemed. So, don't worry, this is definitely not the end of the retrospective series. We've got quite a few left to go. Our next review will not be Halloween 4. We will be continuing our Jurassic Park retrospective. The next one will be, I believe it's called Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
Yes, that is correct.
That will be the next entry. We are really looking forward to bringing you that review. And also make sure to look for our Oscar discussion coming out soon. We will have an article on the website if it's not already posted by the time this podcast goes up. It should be up by then, where we give all of our Oscar predictions. What are the big winners of the night? What are the big losers of the night? What was great? What was a big disappointment? What were the snubs? We're going to give all of that to you. That'll be coming to you via the website. We will make sure to link to that, though, through the podcast site. So make sure to check that out before the Oscars, so you know what we think of the movies. And then after the Oscars, we'll be back not too long after the Oscars, and we'll give you a rundown of the winners and how close we were to picking the winners and what our thoughts were. So we've got a lot of great content coming your way, and the best way to stay up to date on that is to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can subscribe with email, so every single Friday around lunch, you get the email right in your inbox. That way, you never miss a single thing. And you don't want to miss anything because we love having fun doing this. And we love doing this with you guys, bringing this content to you. We know we have listeners all around the world. We're extremely humbled by that. That's awesome. And we want to engage with you guys. So comment on the posts on our website, make comments on the Facebook page. We want to engage and talk with you guys about this. And if you enjoy doing it, then we know your friends are going to enjoy doing it too. So make sure to like this podcast, send it to your friends, like the Facebook page and send that to your friends. Just share the content, cause you're having fun. So share the fun with others, and the more the merrier. So we're really excited to do that. We've got a ton of great retrospectives that are in the works right now. We're just starting to get into them. We're also going to be bringing you quite a few individual brand new movie reviews that are releasing this year in 2018. We're super excited for those. Make sure to check the website for the complete schedule. Anyways, listeners, we want to say thank you for joining us once again with Halloween 3. We will see you next week in Jurassic Park. Stay tuned because next month we will be coming back with Halloween 4 and, of course, some great reviews in between those retrospective series. Until next time, listeners.
I forgot to watch the trailer, so I'll put that in later in post.
Oh, that's fine.
Oops.